welcome to the Wednesday edition of Katrina's Creations. Just wanted to put a little info in here real quick before we get started. At the time of this filming, we are only 23 people from hitting the next 100 subscribers. And if you are new to the channel and didn't know this, every time we have another 100 subscribers, I do a giveaway, which usually involves yarn. So yeah, if you haven't already, please click that little red subscribe button down below over here. And let's get started with today's Wednesday video. It has nothing to do with yarn whatsoever. Imagine that. I retired just about a month ago at this point, and so it's taken me a while to get all of the items in that I ordered because, yeah, there was back orders on stuff. So now that everything's here, I was going to share with you what I got for my retirement. Now, my co-workers gave me a wooden yarn bowl, which I showed on one of the other videos, and I have been using and loving it. So every time I use it, I'll be thinking of them. But they also gave me some money to buy some things with. So I'm going to share with you what I bought with that. But they, my work itself gave me a $100 gift certificate to put towards books that I could have if I would like. So I got some books too. So I'm going to turn the camera around and show you what all I got. So the first thing I bought was 2 pieces of jewelry. And I'll hold these up so you can see them. I got this, which is 10 karat gold. And it's like a little rope. So it's kind of twisted. So I got that. And then this is a turquoise and silver bracelet. And this one's stretchy. It's really comfortable to wear. And it goes really good with like blue jean and denim stuff. So those are the other 2 items I got. And then with the remainder of the money that they gave me, I got this book because you know I like organizing if you've seen some of my other videos. So I got this one. I'm about halfway through. And it's all kinds of like little ideas, little crafty things that you can do. Yeah, so it's kind of fun. So I got this. And it is by Carrie Higgins. So it's called Organization Hacks. And then I got this book, which is Unstuff Your Life by Andrew Mellon. So, and this was a used book. The other one I think was too, but yeah, so it has, I haven't gotten into this book yet, but it's talking about decluttering. Yeah, which again, I like to organize things. I wish I could say my closet looked like this, but it does not. So I got that. And then the last thing I bought with that money was I replaced my Bible. Now this Bible, you can see it's falling apart. I've had it for about 22 years, and I'm not sure what's going on with this, but it's a wonder the pages haven't fallen out, because you can see it's really bent in like this. So I decided I was going to get, and it sits like this. It doesn't, the spine doesn't even stick out anymore. But anyway, so I decided I was going to treat myself to a new Bible. So I did that, and here is my new one. So I've got the little page marker turned out because I'm in the process of transferring 20-some years worth of notes in the old Bible to my new Bible. And I just finished the Old Testament, and I've been working on it for over a week now. I've still got the New Testament notes to transfer over. So it's not showing up real well, but this is a brown. My other one was a burgundy color, so this is brown, and it's got shiny edges, and it has the little tabs. Not that I really need those, but I've never had a Bible with that on there before. So yeah. So that's what I got with that money that they gave me. And then with my work, they gave me $100 to put towards some books. So the first one I got is The Guide to Newport's Cliff Walk. This is up in Newport, Rhode Island, and it is this pathway that runs all along here. It runs, I think it's a couple of miles, and it goes past all of the fancy, quote, cottages. That's not a cottage, that's a mansion. I've actually been to this one and another one that's over on one of these other back streets. This is the Breakers. And so it gives you a guide, a walking guide for taking the cliff walk in Newport. And I marked a couple of pages. So here is the picture of the Breakers that I showed you. And I have been in this one. It was pretty, but it was a house. It wasn't a home. I guess the easy way to put it. This is a map of the cliff walk that runs around here, and these are like all of the mansions. Some of them are open to the public and some are not. The ones that are like in purple are ones that you can take tours of. So I've gone to the Breakers and I've gone to the Elms. So there's quite a few of them up there, and they're fun to go through. They're from the Gilded Age. So the next one that I got was just one with lots of pretty pictures. This is New England Views. It's coastal Massachusetts. Maine is my favorite state. Probably next would be Connecticut. But it just has some really pretty pictures. And I like lighthouses, as you guys know, so it has lots of lighthouses in here. So it just has some pretty pictures. There's another lighthouse. So yeah, it's a coffee table book basically. So it doesn't have a whole lot of writing in. It just has lots of lighthouses, as you can see, and lots of pictures. I haven't seen as many of the lighthouses in Massachusetts. Maine, I've seen most of the lighthouses. So yeah, that's a pretty one. And then I have this. My husband jokingly calls it Fred Flintstone's Castle because you can see it is all made out of rubble. Now this is Gillette Castle. It's in East Haddam, Connecticut. The guy had a really interesting life. If you are familiar with Sherlock Holmes or Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, William Gillette, who built Gillette Castle, was the first person to ever portray Sherlock Holmes. And that was on the stage. And the original Sherlock Holmes did not have the deerstalker cap, did not have the pipe, did not play the violin, and the famous saying of "Elementary, my dear Watson." All of those ideas came from William Gillette when he portrayed Sherlock Holmes. And Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, the author, liked it so much that he incorporated it into the character. So William Gillette he had several siblings. I think his brothers both died at an early age. And then he had a sister. And he traveled. He had a wife at one point. They were married only like 6 years, and she died before they had any children. She had a burst appendix. And he never remarried, but he helped his sister, who was widowed at a young age. He helped her raise her daughters. And so the inside of the house, like I said, he was traveling down the Connecticut River in a houseboat, and he looked up on top of this hill, and he liked the area, and so he called it the Seven Sisters, which was the name of the hill. And he built this castle, and the castle is all made out of rubble stone. So it kind of looks like a ruin. It is generally very ugly to me on the outside, but the inside's really cool. And the grounds of where this sits is really interesting too. At one time he had a railroad you could sit in the cars and ride around, but it wasn't like a full-sized railroad. It was a small-sized railroad, little steam cars that went around the property, and he even had trestles and he had bridges and things. They're now set up as walking paths. The train and the rails are gone, but you can still walk on the walking paths. So it is a state park, and it's really, really pretty to walk around in the, it sits right on the Connecticut River, and you can look down and see it. But William Gillette led an interesting life. This is probably my favorite room in the castle. This is the great room, and it's 2 stories tall. And there is like a huge fireplace over on this wall, which you can't see there. But it's all done in stone, and they've got the big beams, and it's just open. And my favorite spot is this little sofa right here. It sits underneath the stairs. And when we went to see this years ago, I said to the lady who was the tour guide, I was like, if it was a rainy day, that would be such a cool spot to just curl up and like knit or read a book and drink a cup of tea. And she said that when they didn't have tourists in, everybody fought for that spot to go sit in. But here's some other pictures. He was a train enthusiast, so all of the light switches look like train levers. There is the fireplace in the great room that I was telling you about. And I will put a link below if you want to go and look at the actual website for this place. They have a YouTube channel and they take you through some of the rooms and they tell you a little bit about it. It's really interesting. But for a big castle, or what you would call a castle, it's very homey inside. It's very cozy. The bedrooms are not fancy or anything. There's 3 family bedrooms. I think the largest one was maybe 13 by 13 feet. I mean, they were fairly small. They were all single beds. They did have a bathroom for each of them. And then there was, at one point, there were 3 other bedrooms for the house, but when they opened it up for tours, they had to have a fire escape, and so they had to tear out those rooms to make the escape route or whatever. So, but those other 3 rooms, they said, were used for his people who worked for him. If the weather was bad or whatever, they were welcome to stay there, or visitors that were visiting. But his nieces had their own bedrooms there for when they would stay with him. This is part of what was the train station. It's now a little picnic ground, but you can see some of the grounds here are just really pretty. I did a video. Here's that great hall again. I did a video of this, but not on the inside. It was strictly on the outside because it was closed by the time we walked by. But this is William Gillette here. So, yeah, so that was the one book. And like I said, I will put a link to this if you want to check it out and see in color some of the rooms, because it is kind of fascinating. So anyway, that is this book, Gillette Castle. And then I got this book. These are all used books, by the way. This is Carter's Grove, which is no longer open to the public, but my husband and I had gone here several times when it was open to the public. It was built in the 1700s, and it's kind of fascinating. Here you can see a better picture of it. It backs right up to the James River. It sits between Williamsburg and Yorktown down in Virginia. This is the James River right here, and here were the gardens. But it also had, if you see in this background here, at one time there was a colonial settlement on the property in 1622, and there was an Indian massacre there. The Powhatan Indians, which are the Indian tribe that's local to that area, they did have a massacre. There was also an area where you could go underground to a museum to see all the artifacts that they had found there over the years. But this is what the front hall looks like. I'm going to move the camera up just a little bit. So that is what the front hall and the main staircase looks like. It's really, it's a pretty place. This is my favorite room in the house. And that's the kitchen. They made gray cabinets popular before they were popular. So this is the one, this is part of the kitchen right here. And then they have these pretty doors with these windows over the top. But I love this type of sink. This was popular in the 1920s and 30s. And the house, when we saw it, had been added onto, and it was modeled to the time period when the last people who lived in the house were there, which was the 1930s. And it was owned, here's another picture of, this is actually considered the pantry, and that sink is over on this wall here. But isn't that gorgeous? I always liked that, and I liked all these little blue and white canisters that they had sitting here. And that's the actual kitchen fireplace that was in there. And we got a spinning wheel, so we incorporated fiber in here somehow or other. But yeah, the house was added onto, and it was restored to the time period of the 1930s. It was owned, when we saw it, it was owned by the Colonial Williamsburg Foundation, but what happened was it didn't fit to the time period for Williamsburg because of the remodeling and things that had been done to the house. And so it's been sold numerous times. It went into some foreclosure, and it was actually left kind of abandoned and derelict for a while, but now it is privately owned and they are working on fixing it up. But initially, the house stood like by itself. These two outbuildings were not joined to the house. They were later joined and put in. So you can see in this picture, this side's been joined and this side hasn't. I wish it was still open to the public, but it isn't any longer. So that's the other book. And then I have one last book, and I got this one. It's pretty thick, but it is Complete National Parks of the United States. And I marked lots of pictures, but I'm not going to show all of those to you. There's too many. But if you are not familiar with the US, it goes state by state. And here is a map of the United States, and it marks where all of the national parks are. Now I live right about here because this is Pennsylvania. And I live right just above the border of Maryland. I live in Gettysburg. So, and Maine, when you hear me talk about it, is up here. So these are all of our New England states right in here. You've got Pennsylvania, New York, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts. They're tiny little states. And then you got New Hampshire and Vermont. And then you got down south here like Florida. That's where your Disney World and Disneyland is over in here. So there is a stretch of mountains that run through here. And there is a stretch of the Rockies, which are larger mountains, that run through here. So, like I said, just in case you're not familiar with the U.S., that's kind of how laid out it is, and it's pretty big. If you were to take like England, like the UK, if you took that and tried to fit it into the United States, it would fit almost 40 times inside the United States. So, and we have 50 states within our United States. So, and that's just these 48. There's also Alaska, which is kind of up here someplace, and then you've got Hawaii over here. But just the continental United States, which is the 48, you could fit the UK inside it 40 times. So it just kind of gives you an idea. I have been out as far as Colorado, which is here, and I remember as a kid we drove out this way by car, and it took us 3 days traveling at least 8 hours a day. So it's about a 24-hour drive from here to Colorado, and then you've still got another third of the country to get through. So, and I've been as far up as Maine, and I've been down as far as Texas. I've been through most of the states on this page, except for Minnesota. The other states that are here I've been in at some point in time. And I've been down to Texas. I have an aunt that lives there. But this section here, I have not been in. So maybe one day we will see. But this book just has lots and lots of pretty pictures. This is actually Slater Mill, which I have been to. I just happened to flip in there. It was the first site of the Industrial Revolution where they used water to power the spinning mills, and so they used to spin wool and cotton, I believe, at this mill. But I have been here, so I'm not going to flip all the way through the book, like I said, but it does have some pretty pictures to give you an idea of all the different parks in our country to go to, and it tells a little bit about each of them. So, and it's by areas. So, yeah. So I'm looking forward to kind of drooling my way through there. Who knows? Maybe planning future trips. So that is what I got from my retirement. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please give me a thumbs up, and I will see you again on Saturday for our regular video. Thanks again for watching. Bye, everybody.